call the meeting to order. This is Medford Township Council meeting November 12th, 2013. First public meeting statement. Notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by posting a copy of the agenda on the bulletin board at the municipal building and on the township website, filing a copy of the agenda in the township in the office of the township clerk at the municipal building, forwarding a copy of the agenda to the Central Record and Burlington County Times, forwarding written notice to each person who has requested copies of the regular meeting schedule. All of the above posting, filing, and mailing have taken place on the 8th of November 2013. Rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Here.
Mr. Pace?
Here.
Mr. Watson?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Blume?
Here.
Mayor Chekai?
Frank is not here. He will be calling in for the executive session. Okay, communications, scheduling matters, council agenda presentation, any amendments to the agenda?
I had, before the manager gets started, the Neighborhood Services Advisory Committee met earlier this week. The chairman of that committee, Tom Corby, has been diagnosed with cancer. He's going to be undergoing medical treatment, and as of that meeting, he was stepping down as chairman, and the vice chair was going to move up to take his place. And he asked me to pass that along to council. Keep me your prayers.
Thank you for sharing that. Freedom Dog Park grant?
That was put on at the request of Councilman Pace, so
As you know, the township partnered with a nonprofit organization to help maintain and do some work at Freedom Dog Park. And as of last month, they were awarded a $2,000 grant. And there is no township cost share.
I was over there, I want to say, was it Saturday? I think I was over there on Saturday, and it looks like they've been doing some work over there. It's just amazing. That's really a great situation that we have, where we have an organization of volunteers that have actually been able to really carry a lot of the load for us in terms of maintaining that park. So.
Anybody here from Freedom?
Did I say something incorrect?
making sure.
Stand up, please.
Yeah, if you're part of that organization, please stand up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys do a great job.
Would any of you care to expound on that at all?
Yeah. My dog also thanks you. If I'm not out of bed by 7, he's waiting because he knows that means he's gone to the dog park that day. So it's really a great facility there. Oh, come on up. Right at the microphone.
Yes,
Can you introduce yourself?
my name is Jo Sue Kaufman, and my dog has been going to the dog park for years. We have Jim, Judy, Joe, and Jean who put the grant in, trying to get together, and since at the dog park, we have hundreds of people coming over a weekend to that dog park from Pennsylvania, North Jersey, all over. And we decided to try, with the help of Beth, who's been absolutely wonderful, to organize and keep it in a healthy situation and clean and start raising funds so that we can do that. So hopefully with your further assistance, we can continue to make it a place that this township can be really proud of, because it's a gem.
It really is.
Okay, and we thank you and look forward to your further assistance.
I'm just so thoroughly impressed. Thank you. Scheduling items, our next meeting will be held December 3rd, 2013, in this building, the Public Safety Building at 7:30 p.m. Approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from October 15th, both regular executive session and executive session for immediate public release? Any changes, objections? We have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Randy. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, managers report.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Boney. The first item is the Jennings Road report. Earlier this year, council had directed that Jennings Road be reviewed as to the viability of it being open to through traffic. Over the summertime, Dan Guzzi, our engineer, was given that directive to go ahead and follow through with that request from council, and he's here tonight to discuss what his preliminary findings are.
Before you go, can I provide a little bit of background?
Sure.
Because it was really sort of my idea to have this looked at. I was on the planning board last year, and one of the first things that came in front of us was the last step of the development over there.
Heritage.
Yeah, Heritage. Wait, which one?
Heritage.
Heritage, okay. Sorry, I don't remember that. But basically, that road was brought into question, and the idea of people having to pull out on Route 70. And the concern is, and I'm sure most of the people are probably here for that reason, that having to make a left-hand turn out of Route 70, it presents a real possible danger. And that was the thing I asked for the manager, for the council to consider having an engineer look into it, because at the time, I needed to understand why the road was closed, and if it made sense to make it open to the public. At that point, the development and everything had already been approved. We were really in a position of having to grant that final set of approvals, but this was something I felt was important to taking a look at for the benefit of everyone in the public.
And Deputy Mayor, real quick, there's another Jennings Road item on the agenda. They're not the same. The second item is under consent agenda, is the new bridge that was built there as part of Heritage. The town has to accept the former bridge as now part of its right-of-way. So they're two separate things. I just want to be clear, just so everybody is aware of that.
Thank you. We did look at Jennings Road, just as a little bit of history. Back in 1999, just based on our research, a 50-foot section of Jennings Road, which is on the Glen and the Wildflower side of the Jennings Farm, was basically closed by the township through ordinance in order to prevent through traffic. There was a blockade constructed so the cars could no longer go through. It was basically the Jennings Farm. The Jennings Road bisects the Jennings Farm to the north and to the south. That road historically was always a real rural lane type of a road. It was never a very wide road, but it was always historically open to two-way traffic. And before the Glen, before Wildflowers, and now Heritage, didn't see a lot of traffic. Probably saw more cut-through traffic than anything else. People making a shortcut to avoid the Route 70 intersection. So we took a look at the condition of the road. We did not do a traffic study. We did not do counts, and did not do any forecasts on what the increase in traffic would be. Although, as I'm sure you can surmise, common sense tells us that if it's open, it's going to see a lot more traffic than it does now, because you can't use it as a through street. The problems that we encountered with the road were, it's in poor condition now. Certain sections of it are okay. Up by the Heritage side, the road has been improved to the development, but not beyond. And then on the Wildflowers and the Glen side, which is closer to Hartford Road, the road is in fairly good condition. But that stretch in between is really the stretch that concerned us, not only from the condition of the asphalt, but also from the width. That road narrows at one point to 12 feet. There are several small stream crossings which would need to be widened to improve that road. And we think it really does need to be improved before you would open it up to two-way traffic, especially because today versus in 1999, it's going to see a lot more traffic because of the development with wildflowers, really, well over halfway and nearing completion, and then the Heritage just starting up with new homes. So we would anticipate that we'd see a lot more traffic, and from a safety standpoint, it really should be widened at least to 18 feet throughout the entire way, if not possibly a little bit more. And what we recommended in our report, which I believe council has, is if we were going to consider that, we should probably do a traffic study to estimate what the actual traffic volume would be in order to determine just what width we should widen the road to, whether 18 foot is even enough. And 18 foot is absolutely the minimum width that can safely accommodate two-way traffic.
I gotta say, just from my, and I don't know if we're really necessarily hash this out, but I can't imagine widening that road. That's not something that, I mean, there's a point on that road, and it's right within almost 5 feet of a house.
Right, you have some very large mature trees, you have the old farmhouse, which is really right on the edge of the road, and then you have the couple crossings. And the one crossing in particular, the road narrows to about 12 feet, so we'd have to replace that culvert pipe there, or at least extend it in order to accommodate not just a wider cartway, but also, a shoulder from a safety standpoint where it falls off into the ditch, really.
So I still have a concern about traffic exiting onto Route 70. And it's a serious concern because, there's the welfare of the people who are moving in potentially to that development, but also the people who are traveling east and west on Route 70. I will occasionally make a left turn out of there coming out of the Acme, and it's only at night, right? I can't imagine doing that during rush hour or...
Especially during the summer months. You see a lot
Yeah,
of
people back and forth on the shore, and that just gets crazy.
Right.
What can we do about that?
It seems to make sense that should be looked at for an intersection, obviously 70 State Highway. The DOT has a kind of a minimum standard distance between traffic lights, and because there's a traffic light at Jones Road and the entrance to the Sharpfront Plaza there, Jennings Road and 70 intersection is too close for them to put a second traffic signal in. But that doesn't mean that we can't push that, especially now with Heritage coming in with that increased, volume that really is funneled to Route 70. They have no choice but to go to Route 70 or to cut through Sharpfront Plaza. That's a lot of additional volume on that road. The step would be to contact the DOT and to just have them relook at it with the new information from the Heritage Development and push them to see if we can get them to do something about it.
Now, has that always been the public road back there?
Jennings Road?
Yeah.
For all the years I've been here, it's been a public.
I mean, I drove it as a young driver, so it's
Dan,
34 years.
if there wasn't a public road there, Jennings Road didn't go all the way through, would the DOT be more likely or more sympathetic to our request to put a second traffic light?
I don't think so, only because that road is closed. I mean, it was closed back in 1999. Any road closure would have had to been approved by the DOT, although we weren't able to find any records from the DOT, but the ordinance, the township ordinance, which I included in the report, was done, correctly and was, would have had to be been approved by the DOT for the closure. So the DOT wouldn't be able to consider that as a through street. But it is a right-of-way now, and as I mentioned in the report, there are utilities, township utilities in that roadway, which is really the only function the right-of-way serves for the township right now. Because once you get beyond the curve, as you're heading beyond Heritage, from Route 7 sort of towards Hartford Road, there's a sharp curve in the road, and there's one single family, and then you're on the farm, and there's nothing else to get to.
Correct me if I'm wrong, part of the process, the preliminary and final site plan approval for Heritage included traffic studies
Yes.
for that development.
Yes, there is a traffic study for the development, which, like I said, that's already been done. So that's something that we can utilize in contacting the DOT.
But again, and they went through that process with the DOT. That's how they came to find out that, you know, there was a separation distance from another traffic light, et cetera, et cetera.
That's correct.
I kind of feel like the solution was a kick the can down the road solution. We'll have them cut to the shopping center. And that's not,
I don't know that it was necessarily resolved because the study didn't indicate that there was gonna be a tremendous amount of volume, you know, based on the type of community that was being built there. You didn't have a regular stream of traffic, you know, at your traditional morning or afternoon time of day. It seems like I recall that the planning board's engineer had made comments to that effect.
And that's the nature of a, you know, an over 50
Right, exactly.
community, that presumption is that it's retired folks and they're not working, you know, the standard 8 to 5 job that, you know, the rest of the population is, which I think, you know, that might have been true 20, 30 years ago, but I don't think it's really necessarily the case
Well,
now.
going back historically, the impetus for closing the road back in, you know, the late 90s, et cetera, all members of council were invited out to the farm to take a look at exactly what the condition was. I had been out there previously. Widening that road to 18 feet, you know, in my mind, I just don't see where you're gonna get 18 feet. With the position of that house, with the position of that barn, where's the 18 feet come from unless you go around it? And if you're gonna take up any of that property out there, you know, I don't know what the width of the right-of-way currently is on that tax map.
It's 33-foot right-of-way, and we're locked in there too, because as a preserved farm, when the farm was preserved, and this is typical, when a farm is preserved, the state or the county, whoever's preserving it, gives the municipality the option to obtain additional right-of-way.
Right.
At the time that that farm was preserved, the township did not request any additional right-of-way, which makes sense because they had really pretty much closed the road anyway. And
Right.
had no interest in improving it.
Exactly.
So the 33-foot right-of-way we're locked into. There's a procedure to get some of that back, but it's rather arduous, so. And quite frankly, unnecessary, because at 33 feet, you know, the right-of-way is there to widen the road to a minimum of 18 feet. But you're right, there are obstacles, certainly obstacles.
Yeah, and simply based on the state DEP and the way they view, you know, the use of that type of property, you know, best case scenario, if we entertained any thought of doing that right at this point, you know, I still think that there are other options that have to be reviewed, that have to be looked at.
Well, what we did.
This wouldn't be an ideal option.
Right, and the other thing to keep in mind is, once that is open, now we are increasing substantially the traffic at both Jennings and Hartford and Jennings and
Right.
70,
That would
which
be
is
70
worsening the
effect.
situation.
what about, so the way that intersection works right now, you've got this 2-lane road that goes, essentially it's almost like a cut through from where Freedom Park is out to Route 7. How necessary is that lane right there? I mean, if you cut off that road, eliminated the traffic, maybe you can't do all this, but, I mean, is there anything that we can recommend?
Talking about Jones Road?
Yeah.
Right here.
Or just the one that goes across 70 into the shopping center?
At the light.
Jones
This
Road
road, Jones
goes
Road.
into the shopping.
Yeah, I mean, is that a vital throughway from a traffic standpoint? She's like, yes. I'm just asking questions, listen. I'm not an expert.
Now you're including
That's pretty
other-
obvious, isn't it?
Are you trying to close other roads?
Oh, my point is, it's just, it concerns me, that it really does bother me that you have a potential high volume of traffic trying to get out on that road. And the solution we were presented with was a
Based
cut
on
through the
what?
shopping
What's the
center.
high,
I don't
what are
know.
you basing high volume of traffic on? I haven't seen any empirical evidence that indicates traffic is gonna somehow be increased.
How many homes do we have in Harrisburg?
Right now, or?
Our
Right now,
final
no.
site plan approval, it's couple hundred homes.
Yes.
Definitely gonna be some more traffic.
Yeah, there's gonna be, that's,
Like a lot.
look, it's just, maybe, I'm new at this whole traffic thing, you're the expert. I just want to make sure that we're not putting people at risk. That's all. It was presented as a real concern, and it seemed plausible to me, so I thought we could take a look at it.
But I want to say something. I want to go a step further than Councilman Baster. I don't think opening Jennings Road is a viable option at all. I think we needed to do this study. It was important that we did it, and thank you. It was well done. I think it gave us important information. But this study, combined with the time that I spent out at the farm, understanding this situation, really led me to believe that opening that road is just not a viable option. I too am concerned about the increase in traffic, but I think we need to look into another option. I think, I wouldn't be in favor of going any further with this. I think, again, we had to do this, it was important that we did it, but I would be in favor tonight of agreeing that we not go any further with opening Jennings Road and then looking to other options.
I think we need to go back to the state and see about getting light there. I don't know how many times you can go back.
Yes, but I would
Can
like
we
to
say pretty
see us,
please?
I would like to see us tonight agree that we're not going to go any further with opening Jennings Road, because I just don't think it's a viable option.
I agree with Councilman Beedstock. I mean, when Councilman Pace and I went out there, we spent an hour or an hour and a half out on Jennings Road, looking at everything. I mean, yeah, talking about cows and all kinds of things. I was amazed at how many people were using that road, walking their dog, kids using it on their scooters and bikes, and just couples out for a walk. It reminded me of a little park. And, you know, if we're gonna do anything with the right of way that we have there, I'd say let's get a couple parking spots so that more people can use that as a nice place to walk and ride their bikes and what have you. I mean, it would be, in my opinion, it would be a wrong thing to close, to open that road up and lose a nice little gem that we actually have there.
Yeah, you were smart enough to invite us out at sunset. That was
It's really a special.
It's a clever
place.
move.
It is. I think it's what Medford is about, and we need to preserve it.
but we got to deal with
All right,
it.
so,
Again, was there anything else that stood out, anything else that you want to bring to our attention as it relates to?
No, I think as Mr. Feenstock said, it's a beautiful property, and it's nice to have that right away there. I think it works well for pedestrians, for bikes, for the, area residents. I just don't think that it's practical, given the amount of, money and effort that would have to be expended to, open that back up to,
What does that cost us to maintain that road?
if we reopen it,
Well, no, I think it's pretty much, that's off the table.
yeah, currently, Public Works, I have to break it down exactly what we do out there. I don't know that we do much. It is our right of way, we are liable, which is a concern from that standpoint, but other than that, I can get that data for you.
All right, well, I mean,
What I'm hearing, Deputy Mayor, is two things, and that's what I was trying to
I don't want
we
to put
started
all
with
this any
looking
further.
at the through process, but what I'm hearing is the focus really maybe going into 2014 is another thing, is to talk to the state about improving that intersection at the 70. Although I agree, I find it very frustrating at Jones and 70 to even try making lefts. When they put those islands in there,
Right.
there's an offset that is just, to me, doesn't make it. So you have, I think, a bigger issue between where you're looking at and the intersection of the shopping center. So I just want to make sure we're bifurcating that if council's consenting tonight, so we're clear, looking at it as a through road again is off the table, but having us start to look and talk to the state about that specific intersection at 70 for where the road now starts, which is basically Heritage, right? Comes out, and the shopping center, and that's a different process and project that we're looking
it just doesn't seem like it was planned very well. And I really am concerned about it.
And it has to be looked, I mean, Jones and Jennings Road, that whole, it's one project site. In other words, we have to look at both of them. You can't just, isolate either one of them, say, you have to kind of look at both of those intersections in order to determine which is the best way to handle these.
So what would be the way to do that? Do we ask you to, again, add that as part of our roads program, looking at that thing holistically, or how do we approach that?
Yeah, we would, sure, in the budget, again, we look at 2014, as that's one of the items council wants to now investigate. We'll start preliminarily, we can start talking to the state, what they're gonna look for, to do their warrant.
Well, I'm just not convinced that the state's gonna change, or you're gonna make any other headway. Here's my thought, okay? There's more than one way to skin a cat, okay? Where does Heritage end? Heading north, what's the property line for Heritage heading north? Okay, from its physical location. What's the distance between the northern boundary of Heritage and Church Road?
Yeah, we'll pipe it out of the church.
Okay, again, we're trying to alleviate a traffic condition on Route 70, yet we're trying to dump all this traffic onto Route 70. So why are we not looking in an opposite direction? Obviously, when all of this first started, the obvious choice would have been Jennings Road, okay? If Jennings Road is not the optimal, okay, it's not a viable, optimal condition, why not look at the northerly exit or an easterly exit? Okay, there's two other small developments off of 541 that are in close proximity to Heritage. Okay, there are 2 or 3 entrances that empty out onto 541 from those developments. Okay, are we looking in the wrong direction is what my point is. And this is, again, for the planning process, this is something that should have already been done. It wasn't, here we are.
Yeah, and again, that's a council policy decision. If council wants to basically put I'll call it a bypass. Call it what you want from an engineering standpoint, but to connect 70 to Church in that general vicinity, that's a whole different policy decision and analysis.
So is the concern that would create through traffic, through Jennings, down through that neighborhood?
Well, again, I think I understand the concept of what Councilman Pace is saying. It's just,
The county built us a dam there, for crying out loud, and now they're giving us the dam and all its responsibilities. Thanks for nothing, okay? Because now I gotta fight with the state to get a traffic fix for a development that's going in. Again, are we looking in the wrong direction?
We could look at the possibility, because all
That's all I'm asking.
those developments are all approved, we have the plans. We can see what the potential is for a sort of a cut-through road.
It sounds like they're stuff.
Yeah,
I like the idea.
Yeah.
Well, having spoken to the developer, I don't think he's, necessarily closed to the idea. Again, when we deal with stuff like this, we have to look at all options, that's all I'm saying.
I'll take a look at that and give you a supplemental.
All right.
Okay.
Accidentally moved off of the agenda.
Okay, we're still
Exam.
item number 2.
next item is the boards and committee handbook and service appointment ordinance. Just earlier this year, council, we had discussed the concept of the boards and committee handbook and service appointment ordinance, which would establish a process for appointments to various boards and committees. Council had consented to the idea, and we've been working on that. We have distributed that to council for their review, and any changes or comments to be reported back to me. And this will be listed at the earliest at the December 3rd meeting for discussion. So I'm just
I had just a couple of very minor comments. Can I give those to you separately?
Yeah.
For the next meeting?
The next item, I was going to give a brush and leaf program update. The second brush collection period ended in late October, which completed the 2013 program. When we initially planned the operational period of 2 months, this was as part of coming out of a referendum as we were trying to work our way through that. What we did when we established the 2 periods, we went with a 2-month window, but we also set some benchmarking. Historically, the town had crews that would come in with 2 loads and some as high as 7 loads per truck. So we established a 5-load benchmark minimum before the trucks could come back in. And the other thing is we enforced the ordinance that had been a long time on the books of not collecting tree stumps and trunks. When that arm has to collect that material, it is not a quick pickup. And I mean, if you try to collect anything with, you lose that balance. It slows us down. So we enforced that. We were able to get around the town the first operational period in 30 days. So we went back around since we advertised for 2 months. Going into the fall collection cycle, we went in with the same protocol, and we were able to get around the town again in twice in a 2-month window. So going into 2014, we're now going to look to stretch that to quarterly pickup 1 time. So the benefit to the community obviously is you're not waiting 6 months between pickups, you're waiting 3 months. And it nearly brings us back to prior to Medford's kind of financial issues, where the town brush collection was collected 5 times each zone. So so going into 14, that's what we're now looking at, stretching it back out to a quarterly pickup. So you're not going to get the 5 you had maybe, but we're getting as close to it as we can. And so again, with kind of making ourselves more efficient, that program is starting to kind of work. The kinks have worked out. And so we're going to make that adjustment going into 14. Leaf collection. Okay, leaf collection. Coming out of a referendum, again, we went to 1 collection period with the first zone being collected twice because we do start November 1st. We cannot wait for Mother Nature. The leaves cannot, the roads in this town, certain neighborhoods cannot handle the volume of leaves with 4 crews coming around the town, that if we waited for every leaf to fall, you have potentially up to 8,400 line items, 13 to 15,000 cubic yards of leaves that we collect annually. So we get out there as early as we can and get as much as we can. And that was the concept we went into this. Coming out this year, council asked towards the end of the year, because at this point in the year, we can start moving funds around budgetarily. We can see how we're trending in certain line items and things of that nature to make sure we're going to finish the budget year without any major issues that we did not project or plan for. So I can safely say tonight we would be able to extend the second collection to the first 2 zones. So zone 2 was first this year on the rotation. Zone 3 we're in now. We would be able to go back and hit both of those. And in 2 weeks I would be able to let council know if we can hit all 5 zones twice. The goal is, as I interpret, is to try to get to a 2 collection cycle again. We have been talking about 1-arm vehicles, trying to use technology given our staff resources. So we're still looking at all these variables, but I can say tonight we can start announcing to Zone 3 folks that we would be able to get around to them a second time. And in 2 weeks, we'll know for sure for this operational period getting around to the other zones. But once we're into the heart of all the leaves being, and traditionally zones 4 and 5 are your heaviest, which are still later in the collection cycle. So coming around again, there's still going to be leaves out there, but it'll be spread out differently. So we're still, like we said, coming out of referendum. Every year we're evaluating this, how to restore the services to certain levels. It's probably never going to go back to 2 collections, a fall and a spring, twice around the town. But if we can get the fall-winter period 2 collections, you're probably getting 95% of your leaves out, off the ground for springtime. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. So,
Excellent.
just, and we don't have a meeting for 3 weeks, so we may, we put that out there as soon as I know, rather than wait for a council meeting. But, so that's kind of where we're at. I don't know if you have any questions on the program.
No, just extend my compliments to you. I mean, the benchmarking programs obviously work. I think the township employees are doing a great job getting this stuff done. That needs to be recognized, so thanks for doing more with less.
Well, we're trying to bring it around, and like I said, I think we can achieve council's long-term goal of trying to restore some of this within sustainable budgets, and that's what we've been trying to do, so. The next item, we have 3 approvals for EMS, 2 for EMS, approval of Justin M. DeLeo. He's a new fire member, Station 252 Taunton. We have Margaret Ford, new EMS member, Station 258. And Keenan Gelfond, a new member, also 252.
Which list are you looking at?
Yeah.
I'm looking at her Friday.
I'm like,
That was last month.
That was last, I'm sorry. Farnham, Wayne. That's what happens.
That's right. We got your back.
Carrie Farnham, new EMS, I knew there were more EMS, they were all EMS. Farnham, new EMS member, Nicole Tagliusi, EMS member, and Samuel Wang, EMS junior member, Station 258.
Are any of those individuals here?
And there's individuals here? Good question. Thank you. So, I guess we need to get a voice vote for approval on that?
Yep.
Do we need a motion or just a voice vote? So, voice vote, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
And real quickly, on Friday, November 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., under the Faulkner Act, I hold my meetings with the staff. The public is welcome to attend. It is not a public meeting, but it is done in public. And basically, the departments are turning in their budgets, and I'm having a period of time with them individually to go over their submissions. So it's in the manager's conference room in the 17 North Main Street, and it's on the website. But I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that.
Thank you.
Real quick, if I could go back to the MS and volunteer firefighters, and I don't remember whether I verbalized it or not. But for the last meeting in December, can we get an update on the total number of new volunteer EMS and firefighters for 13?
You're asking me?
Who's writing it down?
All right, so the next thing is the read, right, everyone, discussion items?
Discussion
All right, so discussion items, the first one is the annual professional review committee establishment. Do you want to introduce that?
Sure. The township has an administrative guideline that coexists with its code. Medford Township on an annual basis must establish a review committee of 2 members of council to review submissions for professional services going into the next calendar year. So the submissions are due this coming Friday, and then the subcommittee, after staff puts them in, in order for the subcommittee would then start reviewing them. In the past, council had a formal subcommittee as well as an informal committee, especially when you got into the interview processes. But from just a policy standpoint and the code standpoint, you have to at least establish a formal committee tonight and be ready to go once we get the submissions and distribute them.
So we have 2, right? We've got the professionals, and then we have, do we want to form for appointments to boards as well?
This is strictly for
Just
annual
professionals.
professional appointments. How you handle the volunteer boards is your discretion.
Any volunteers? Councilman Pace? Anyone want to?
Did you run the forms last year, so I didn't want to get somebody else to do this.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you wanted to do it again.
I'll be happy.
All right, so Councilman Pace and Councilman Watson will be on the formal. I will be happy to do the informal. You want to join me in that, or? Okay, so Councilman Beanstalk and I will,
Frank gets a pass.
yeah, Frank gets a pass this year because he's not here, that's right. Okay, so that was pretty simple.
Yep.
Do we need to, we're good, right? Municipal Park Development Grant.
Okay, the next one is, early this year, Medford applied for the county open space grant for improvements to Bob Bendy septic system and parking area, along with improvements in trail construction at Hartford Crossing. We were awarded $107,000 of potential $250,000, and the county has awarded that for the trail construction. However, when council discussed submitting the grant, council focused on health, safety type issues, and the septic system, in staff's opinion, is the priority. And so what staff is recommending is we go back to the county and ask them to allow us to use those funds to fix the septic system. That's what we're recommending. In my understanding, it does not go back to the freeholders as a staff function at the county level. So unless council has some objection to that.
Will that cover the entire cost? Will it be a
Our
balance?
well, the county grant does not cover professional services. The amount budgeted was 107, or 99, and we have 107. So it should cover it at this point in
Does the
time.
99 include professional services?
Now, the county grant is not permitted to be.
So that was on, that was one of the items that.
Yeah, that would have been deducted even if we got funds to improve Bendy, the amount for professional services.
Do we think it's likely that they'll approve the request to move it?
I think it's a valid, our reasoning is a valid reasoning, the potential failure of that system, and it's overwhelmed basically with the amount of usage there,
Because they essentially didn't approve it by not funding it.
Yeah, but I don't know the rhyme and reason to the county's kind of thing,
They prioritize it.
Did we prioritize in our application?
It was listed, no, they were listed jointly. Yeah.
My understanding is the way the county's grant process works, and Ms. Portacallis is here, and she's been doing these grant applications for years. Correct me if I'm, run afoul. But essentially, the county's looking at growing the parks and available amenities through this grant process, because they can check it off as, look what we built, look how much more we have. Unfortunately, what that does, strictly from a management standpoint, is everything new you buy within the first couple of years now falls to the municipal taxpayers with no funds available to maintain it. So in other words, they'll give you a little money up front to build it, but then you're on your own insofar as maintaining it. Now, if you want to buy something else that needs even more work in the future, they're happy to give you a little money up front, but the long-term, financial obligation you own. And essentially, that's what we're looking at with Bendy. Now, like the manager said, this isn't going to go back to the freeholders, it's going to go to the staff within the county, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mary Pat Roby, and honestly, based on my communications with her, I think that her and her staff is amicable to maintaining what we have, because so much of what we have throughout the county is falling apart. There's been a number of press, what was the park with the runoff issue? They built a path and it keeps washing out every time it rains. They're dumping tons of money into it. The municipality and county have been dumping tons of money into it because they didn't build it right the first time, and they haven't fixed it right the second, third, fourth, and fifth time. So from the county staffing perspective, why throw more money somewhere else when we've got infrastructure that's failing? If we don't fix it with these funds, what's going to happen?
I'm in favor of it.
I think it's a great idea, and
It's also the most practical use of money.
it is, and if there's a cost difference, we can certainly set that, and correct me if I'm wrong, we can start directing that money to the project they did approve.
Correct.
So it's a win-win, right?
Yeah, so I think you have council's.
Okay, thank you. The last item is the liquor license. We previously discussed and set an initial amount for $600,000 for the current available license. We received no bids at the time. Council did have a fallback of $500,000, but I brought this back because my opinion is the market's just not supporting that. The last license in 2008 was $450 the town got. So I still think the market is not necessarily strong, yeah. And so, you know, we can put it back out at 500. I didn't know if council wanted to maybe make an adjustment to try and incentivize it.
Did we get any interest at all at 600?
No.
There's two issues. One is getting the most money possible. The second is, I don't want to go out to bid too many times on it, because I think at that point, it begins to have a negative perception attached to it.
We want to get the money for next year.
Yeah. Well, less, I know that that's an issue, but for me, it's more about getting the most value out of it. So from a negotiation standpoint, if we spur more bids by having the cost a little bit lower, at least you create some chatter that way, maybe that drives it a little bit.
So your feeling is we should go lower than 500?
I think so. I think we
Yeah.
go up to 4.
I don't know at what level, but like I said, in 2008, just before the market, you know, as the market was, the town got 450 for one. But,
That was not low.
No.
yeah.
Actually, the Mount Laurel license was the Chili's, I think that was $820.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you
Wow,
gotta
that's
look,
a
you know,
different,
it's
it's right up,
hard.
you have too high of an
We
area.
looked at other towns, but you also gotta look at the infrastructure of the towns. We do not have 295 and a major interchange through our township. We have Route 70, which is viable, and, you know, but, so you gotta factor those things into the situation too. You know, so, but, you know, it's up to council at what level.
Do you want to hold on this and wait for Frank to come back? Yeah.
When you say, right, well, when you say what was the interest, if you gauge the interest by the number of bids, obviously we
It's
can
level.
receive it. But well, and see, that's just it. Who are they inquiring to? I did have conversations with a number of people that expressed some interest, and actually one organization I thought was going to bid, but one of the questions they had asked me was, what if we bid less than the minimum bid? And I said, well, we set it out as 600,000. If you come in below 6 and somebody comes in at 6, you know, obviously you didn't meet the minimum bid requirement, so, you know, right off the bat, yours is taken off the table. And the discussion didn't go any farther than that. Insofar as sending it back out for less than 5, we established that it would be 5 if we had to go back out a second time. Given that there were 0 official bids,
That would be the only thing that was driven out.
yeah, and
Second time. It just hired the
we
market.
discussed that, and we said we would revisit it, you know, if that came to pass. So is 5 the right number? You know, I'm not so sure 5 is the right number, but I don't believe 4 is the right
I like
number.
450.
I'm thinking 450.
That's what we got for it in 2000.
If you want to stick at 450, that's fine with me. It doesn't matter to me, I just want to get bids in this time around. If we're going to put it out again, it has to do with perception. And there's also a time frame, because there's a possibility we'll have 2 more online soon. So you don't have 3 on it at the same time.
Again, I'm okay with 450. I don't see any point.
That's fine by me.
450 is
Okay. So 450. So that's it for the public, for the discussion items. Now is public comments. Comments, we please ask you to limit them to 5 minutes. If you want to come up and speak, just raise your hand, I'll call you. And do we, first of all, how many people think that they want to make some comments tonight? We have a bunch of them? Okay, just a couple. All right, if that's the case, just when you come to the microphone, you have to give your name and address for the record. So come on up.
My name is Jeff Allen. I live at 4 Broadview Drive here in Medford in the Wildflowers community. And I've been chosen by our community to speak on their behalf. I'd like to thank Mr. Guzzi, Mr. Schultz, and all of the councilmen for coming out and seeing the Jennings Road project that has been considered. That being said, there's a couple of comments about the discussion that you had that I'd like to make before I read the petition that we had put together, obviously against the opening of the street. But first I was thinking about a couple of things that you had mentioned. One was, first of all, the number of homes that are going to be in Heritage is 210. And the majority of those are going to have 2-car garages. So if you think that the retirees only are on the street between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., you should rethink that. In our community, fully 55% of the residents still work full-time. So you can look forward to a substantial amount of traffic coming out of that space. And so then I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak in front of you this evening and read to the petition that we put together in opposition to the Jennings Road opening. And I thank you very much for your considerations and your thoughtfulness, the amount of time you've taken this evening on this topic, but I still would like to read the petition.
Sure.
Whereas we understand that an engineering study of the feasibility of reopening Jennings Road to through traffic has been undertaken, and we are aware that it is difficult to turn from Jennings Road at the unsignalized intersection with Route 70. And we are aware that the Heritage development, consisting of over 200 homes, is under construction along Jennings Road. And we understand that a traffic light at Jennings Road and Route 70 was previously proposed and rejected, supposedly because it would be too close to the traffic light at Jones Road. Furthermore, Jennings Road is a narrow country lane that crosses state-designated preservation land and passes within just a few feet of the front door of a historic building, which is a lifelong private home of the current residents, who would suffer significant and permanent disturbance should the road be opened through to Hartford. Further, opening Jennings Road to through traffic would require considerable expense to the taxpayers. On each of the end of the preservation land, Jennings Road is a residential street. If opened, it would become a shortcut around the Hartford Road Route 70 intersection, and as a residential street, is not intended to handle the volume of traffic intended to be carried by state and county roads. Traffic going south on Hartford, planning to go east on Route 70 or to the Sharps Run Shopping Center, would take Jennings as a shortcut, adding to the traffic on Jennings and at the Route 70 intersection, compounding the very problem you're trying to solve. Traffic going north on Jennings would back up at Hartford. This is already a busy intersection, particularly on school days, and a traffic light would be necessary there. Opening Jennings Road to through traffic would create noise for residents of the area, safety hazards for children who now walk and ride bikes on Jennings Road, and would reduce property values. We're aware that numerous locations in New Jersey exist where traffic lights are placed at closer spacing than Jennings and Jones on Route 70. And therefore, we request that the council discontinue any further consideration of reopening Jennings to through traffic. And we suggest the council pursue more vigorously the installation of a traffic light at the intersection of Jennings and Route 70 or some other traffic control solution that does not involve opening Jennings Road to through traffic. We have at the time our petition was signed, we had 64 residents in Wildflowers. All 64 did sign it, and I have this to give to the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Name and address for the record.
I'm sorry, I'm Mary Beth Jennings Melton from the Jennings Farm. And as has been mentioned, I've lived on the farm most of my young age and now my old age. And we really do appreciate you all coming out and seriously considering what closing or opening that road would do to our farm. And I think Mr. Watson did mention that it's a gem and that it should be appreciated by many people. And, you know, word of mouth. We do have people coming from all over to visit the farm and say the same thing, but it's a gem, and they really do enjoy the road. So it's not just the people in the Glen or Wildflowers or Heritage, but it's the community of Medford, as well as even as far as Indian Mills, people coming to ride their bikes. It really is a gem for many people, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ron Venturi. I live at 22 Andover Drive at the Glen at Medford. Just so you're aware, I'm a member of the board at the Glen of Medford Homeowner Association. On behalf of the Glen residents, I would like to present a petition to the Medford Township Council against the reopening of Jennings Road. Our petition raises the same concerns and issues and recommendations previously stated by Jeff and Wildflower community. To date, the petition has been signed by more than 90 residents, which counts for approximately 75% of the homes. Once complete, I would like to deliver that to the township. As we all know, Jennings Road has been closed for almost 15 years. There may be some reasons to open the road, but we believe there are better and stronger reasons to keep it closed. Regardless of which side we're on or reasons for it, Medford Township and its residents should look to preserve this location, including the country road, by keeping it as is for its historical significance. That's what I'm going to say. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, my name is John Richter. I live in 26 Fresh Iron Court, I live in Taunton Trace. I don't live anywhere near this area, but I found out about this issue. I'm a customer of Jennings Farm. I've just been talking to the Mary Beth and the proprietor of Jennings Farm. Seems like the horse is pretty much dead at this point. But I just wanted to voice my support for moving forward in the direction that was discussed and discussing, looking at some other options for solving the problem at the intersection of Jennings Road and 70. I think that, as already been said, Jennings Farm is a rare gem. It's a working farm. It's, for people that don't know, it's one of the only places in Medford where you can go and buy, a product. You can get grass-fed beef there. And that's pretty rare these days in the region and the state, and especially in Medford. There are only a handful of farms like that. As Mr. Guzzi has said, it would be an extreme danger and, a terrible quality of life issue for the people that live on Jennings Road. Cars going by right in front of 5 or 10 feet away from houses. And the traffic impacts, I think, just from driving around that area and seeing the traffic that backs up at Hartford Road and 70, the traffic impacts, the traffic that would spill out on Jennings Road would be extreme. It would be a disaster. I think that basically, if you guess all the traffic that's going south on Hartford Road, and probably more, it would balance until the waiting time at Hartford Road. And Route 70 was equal to the waiting time at Jennings Road.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, it's time, the motion to close the public. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Public comment portion is closed. Bill list. Everyone have a chance to,
Before we go on real quick, this is a good jumping off point. Everybody's good with golf carts though, right? Yes? Anyone opposed? That's a good jumping off point.
we'll give people a chance. If you came for that issue and you want to go that, I'll take a deep breath here. Bill list. All right, bill list. Everyone have a chance to examine the bill list? Any questions? Any questions answered? CFO? Okay. We get a motion to approve the bill list for October 23rd, 31st, and so moved. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ordinance for second reading. First ordinance, 2013-13. Can I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2013-13 for second reading? Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2013-13, an ordinance granting renewed consent and permission to South Jersey Gas Company to use the public streets to furnish gas for light, heat, and power in the township of Medford.
Second.
We open it to the public before we take the vote, right? By the way, I apologize, I'm not normally this flaky. I'm a little flaky, but it's been a long day. So at this point, the motion is open to the public for comment. Any public comments on ordinance 2013-13 as introduced? Seeing none, can I get a motion to close the public comment portion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I was an aye. I just forgot. Okay, so the public portion is closed. So we need a roll call. Do we have to do a roll call vote to close the public portion? Well, let's redo that then. Let's do a roll call vote to close the public portion.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Buolny?
Aye. That was my best Peter Brady imitation.
Now we need council comments.
Now council comments on this ordinance. Seeing none, let's have a roll call vote for adoption.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Buolny?
Aye. So ordinance 2013-13 is approved. Second motion, ordinance for, can I have a motion for ordinance 2013-14 to be approved on second reading?
I move that ordinance 2013-14, an ordinance of the Township Council of Medford Township, amending and supplementing the following chapters of Article 7 of the Medford Township Code with Section 5-65, unauthorized billing and billing processing practices, vendor fiduciary duty, violations and penalties. We passed on first reading.
Second.
I'm sorry, second reading.
Second.
Second by Mr. Beanstalk. Now this is open to the public for comment. Do we have any public comments for ordinance 2013-14? Entirely satisfied? All right, so I see no public comments. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move.
Second.
Voice vote to close public comment?
Roll call. Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Buolny?
Aye. All right, I actually, any council comments on this? I have some comments, but I'll open up the other council members first. Just for those of you that haven't been here to a lot of meetings, a little bit of background on this. This and actually the next ordinance are things that came about by our task force. This particular ordinance is very important to me because it gives you, the public, the ability to actually hold your elected and appointed officials accountable by giving you a mechanism by which you can press charges locally should any elected officials or anyone else working within the context of your tax dollars unduly influence people to make bad decisions with your money. This is something that I think that a point of frustration that I certainly felt before being on council and even after, the lack of ability that we have to govern ourselves and to enforce ethics on locally here. So we've given ourselves a lot more control, and it's just, I think it's a very important step that we've taken, as well as some others internally as far as the building control. So hopefully people will take the time to take a look at this and understand what their rights are and what their remedies are should we find ourselves in another situation where our government is not behaving appropriately. Any other comments? Okay, roll call vote for adoption.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Buolny?
Aye. So ordinance 2013-14 is passed. Can I get have a motion to introduce or to approve on second reading ordinance 2013-15.
Make a motion to approve on second reading ordinance 2013-15, an ordinance of the Township Council of Medford Township amending and supplementing the following chapters of Article 7 of the Medford Township Code, 5-52 capital programs and budget amendment, 5-53 contracts, 5-56 purchasing, 5-57 emergency purchases, 5-58 purchases by quotation, 5-61 vouchers and certifications, and 5-69 division of treasurer and purchasing.
Second.
Okay, now I want to open up ordinance 2013-15 to the public for comment. Do I have any public comments? Seeing none, I have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
And a roll call vote to close the public hearing.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Bowen?
Aye. One thing I left off my last comment, and since I can never say enough, sorry. I just wanted to thank Jack Hartwig, he's in the audience. He worked, he really put in just hundreds of hours, right? Can I say hundreds? Did we reach hundreds? Thousands. He put a lot of time in and really did this town a great service. So thank you, because he helped us out a lot. He did. He had a stack of papers that was, well, that's probably taller than me, right? So definitely taller than me. Roll call vote. Any other council comments? Roll call vote for adoption.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Bowen?
Aye. So 2013, ordinance 2013-15 is passed. We have ordinance for first reading. Can I have a call for, or can I have a motion for ordinance 2013-6 introduced for first reading, for -16 rather?
I move that ordinance 2013-16, an ordinance of the Township of Medford in the County of Burlington, New Jersey, canceling certain funded and unfunded appropriation balances in the amount of $2,190,607.53 and reappropriating said funds for other capital improvement and for other purposes be passed on first reading.
So the
Public hearing will be December 3rd.
It's the next meeting. Okay, so the date for the public hearing on this, we'll set the date for December 3rd, 2013. Do I have any council comments?
I'll
comment
second.
Did we not get a second on the motion?
Maybe two. Second and third.
Let's do that again. Let's set the date for, now that we've got a second, we'll set the date for the public hearing on December 3rd, 2013. Any council comments?
Roll call for.
First council comments. Do we have any council comments? Okay. I will say that this, because again, for clarity, there were a lot of things that were said about this that were frankly untrue. What we have here is we have, in this case, we're looking at $2 million, $2.1 million in funds that were approved for financing for capital projects. The money can only be used for capital projects. Of this amount of money, $500,000 has already been appropriated, is that correct? Or is this the 2.1? None of this has been appropriated yet.
This is now being reappropriated. Part of this was funded, part of it was unfunded.
Okay, so we've got a portion of it that was funded, a portion that was unfunded. So now this is being reappropriated for other capital improvements.
It's only an authorization though at this point in time. That's all council, it's a bond authorization at this point in time.
Right, we would not be issuing any new debt.
Correct.
Okay, so roll call vote for approval.
Mr. Beanstalk?
Aye.
Mr. Pace?
Aye.
Mr. Watson?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Bowen?
Aye. Consent agenda resolutions. I'll read through it. Does anybody have any objections to any of the, or any comments about any of the resolutions in our consent agenda?
I don't have a comment, but I was going to ask Mr. Schultz if he could briefly comment on
The transfer resolution.
194, yeah, the transfer resolution, 194-2013.
194, 192?
192.
192.
Okay, Mr. Beanstalk is asking just for some summary of Resolution 192, which is approving 2013 appropriation transfers. In municipal government, the township, once it sets its budget, is not permitted to move money from line item to line item until after November 1st of each year. Once we get to that point in the year, we can then determine if we funded certain line items enough, or sometimes we did not project certain things, and so we have to move funding. It does not change the bottom line of the budget, but we have to, this is the mechanism in which we have to do this. So there are certain appropriations moving from one line item to another. From the assessor line item, salary and wage, there's 10,000 being moved. From planning, salary and wage, there's 2,000 being moved. From insurance, other expenses, line item 35,000. Sanitation, salary and wage, and I want to be clear on sanitation because of some of the misinformation over the recent process of election. This is moving sanitation from salary and wage down to the O&E for the supplemental service we use for leaf collection. It's part of the sanitation budget. Sanitation budget line item is strictly not for curbside collection of trash. It is brush and leaves too in our line item. So the department head had the money in salary and wage. It needs to be in the operating expense, which we're moving mechanically down when we get to where the money's going. Buildings, salary and wage being 9,000, celebration O&E 1,600, and social security O&E 39,000. And where it's moving to is under manager O&E $600, assessor O&E 16,500, legal O&E we're moving 51,000, zoning is 4,000, fire O&E is 15,500, sanitation O&E is 85,000, and buildings O&E is 9,000. Now, what does that mean? Assessor, the appeals obviously are costing us money, and so we had to move some money there to cover the appeal expenses that we're incurring through the appeal process. The legal budget is things that are were not projected at the beginning of the year. For example, council decided to challenge Mr. Samo's liquor license renewals. That's costing us in a process that we have to account for. We also are doing a legal cost analysis that was not projected as some of the old former attorney fees that has to be accounted for. So you have some things that have happened throughout the year. We had some lawsuits that we didn't account for early in the year. We had the parking issue with a non-Medford business who had a lot of challenges to an ordinance that came in. So these are just things, again, the budget's a projection, but so we're moving those funds there. Zoning, for the last 2 years, we've really cut the zoning budget. The zoning officer does utilize professionals that are not escrow. These are enforcement actions, code enforcement, property maintenance. So it's the second year we've had to put money back there, so we'll reevaluate that going into 2014. Fire, we've had the incentive program for the volunteers and their reimbursements is up, which is good. That means they're responding to calls. So, so we had to bump that up. Again, sanitation, that's simply the movement of funds that were projected to pay for the supplemental staff for the LEAP program that was put in salary and wage. It can't be there as a third party. It's got to be an O&E. And the buildings, we've had some issues with the ventilation system in this building, and we had a new roof. We've had a major leak in the town hall building, and we just had a new roof put on. And so we covered those expenses through operations and not utilizing capital at this point in time. So
the bucket is gone?
Yeah, the bucket is gone. We are going to be testing for mold, though. We do have some concerns. This building has had air quality testing, too. But we are going to be testing for it. There's quite a bit of issue there that I think we need to nip it in the bud and just make sure the staff's safe. So I think that addresses questions.
Okay, I'll go through these resolutions. We have Resolution 185-2013, amending the Township of Medford 2013 year municipal budget by insertion of a special item of revenue and appropriation from the Medford Vincenttown Rotary Halloween Parade. 186-2013, approving requests for final release and performance guarantee JHP Builders LLC for Primo Properties Sherwin-Williams. 187-2013, authorizing refund of the 2013 water connection fee, Block 2706, Lot 10.1. Resolution 188-2013, acceptance of dedication of vacated right-of-way to the former Jennings Road Bridge. Do you want to explain that since we have Jennings Road people?
Yeah, I explained it earlier. It is, as part of the heritage development, we had the new bridge built. The bridge is shifted, so now the old bridge is now becoming, once it's decommissioned, it's a right-of-way, and the town has to accept that as part of that approval. So that's what that is.
189-2013, authorizing closing of roads in Medford for community event. 190-2013, authorizing extension of a memorandum of understanding with the Sunrise Rotary of Medford for the annual Dickens Festival. 191-2013, amending the Township of Medford 2013 year municipal budget by the insertion of a special item of revenue and appropriation from the Sunrise Rotary Dickens Festival. 192-2013, we just talked about approving 2013 appropriation transfers. 193-2013, the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Program, enforcing the underage drinking laws state block grant program, resolution approving participating with the State of New Jersey Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control Program. And lastly, 194-2013, amending the Township of Medford 2013 municipal budget by the insertion of a special item of revenue and appropriation from the State of New Jersey Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control Program for supplemental FY11 enforcing the underage drinking laws block grant.
Deputy Mayor, just for clarification on Resolution 193, in that resolution it rescinds Resolution 184, 2013. The dollar value changed in the grant. We're getting, I think, about $200 more. So we just wanted to be clean and make it a clean record.
So, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda resolutions?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Randy. Vote to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Right. The consent agenda is passed. Next, executive session, resolution ES 11-12-2013. I'll go through the list. We have matters relating to litigation, negotiations, attorney-client privilege relating to Murphy versus Medford Township Zoning Board of Adjustment. Second item is matters relating to the purchase, lease, or acquisition of real property or the investment of public funds. That's a Shendock property, block 6801, lot 5.01. Item number C, matters relating to the purchase, lease, acquisition of real property, investment of public funds, tax liens of various properties. Item D, matters relating to litigation negotiations and the attorney-client privilege relating to the Office of the State Comptroller. Mr. Schultz had referenced that earlier. Item E, matters relating to litigation, negotiation, and the attorney-client privilege relating to healthcare. And item F, matters relating to litigation, negotiations, and the attorney-client privilege relating to the ZBA billing dispute. And again, Mayor Checka will be calling in for that, so all five of us will be in attendance for that. Do I have a motion to pass resolution ES 11-12-2013?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? We will now adjourn to executive session. It's going to be a long one. I don't anticipate any action being taken, but action may or may not be taken. Right, we don't anticipate any action.
We'll come out in 45 minutes.
We'll let you know in 45 minutes.